Four Knights of the Apocalypse chapter 249 is officially out. And first off, sorry about the late upload. I literally got back from vacation a few days ago, so this is probably coming out like a day or two before the next chapter, chapter 250, comes out. So apologize for the delay, but I wanted to get this out before the next chapter, so we're going to run with this. But this is a very relatively chill chapter, basically dealing with the ramifications of the previous one. Tristan's life continues to be an utter hellscape, as he just cannot catch a break at this point in the story, and it seems Nakaba is like very intent on having Tristan earn the title that he has in some Arthurian legend, Tristan the Sad. So I'm just curious to see what's going on. But yeah, this chapter is one massive debate over Lancelot and everything that's happened, and Tristan learning the fates of what happened with Elizabeth and what's going on with Meliodas now, and things aren't looking good. Before we jump into things, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And if you want to support me more on the channel, go and check out my Patreon, link in the description. Right now I have the first manga review exclusive for Patreon, being the monthly Each of the Witch videos. I made one giant hour and 20-minute video covering like a good chunk of Each of the Witch, just so it'd be like, you know, covering one specific arc. And now we're going to be going like month by month for chapters of Each of the Witch on Patreon. So go check that out if you haven't already. It'd help out a lot. Now then, let's jump right into the chapter. Chapter 249 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, titled Prayer. Cover is of the Boar Hat Tavern, with a bunch of people going to try and get some drinks. And that's actually where the chapter starts off. A couple of people are going towards the tavern so that they could actually have a nice drink after a long day's work rebuilding the kingdom. But it's then the two guards posted outside effectively tell them to come back another time, because right now, since the castle is still being repaired, the meeting room is not available, so they're using the Boar Hat for a very important discussion. But it is very quiet in there. As we then cut to the inside of the Boar Hat, and it seems that Gawain, Tristan, and Percival has just finished telling everybody what transpired in Camelot and the creation of Chaos Lancelot, with Hauser saying it's impossible, Keon being just in disbelief that it was Lancelot of all people to do this, and Donnie refuses to believe it, but Percival, just still tearing up, struggles to just say that he did all of this. He wanted to do this in order to protect the person that he cherished the most. Hauser says you don't blame him for turning a traitor like this. He'll destroy the world to protect what's vital to him. What an insane contradiction that is. And Hauser goes on to say that he hates to say it, but if sacrificing one life saves the world, then it simply must be done. With Gila in the end just chewing him out over it. Gila telling him to watch his words, and the end just saying, the way you're acting right now is why you haven't found someone to marry yet, which I find hilarious. Now, something I've noticed is a lot of people are either tearing down Hauser for saying this, and he's half right and half wrong, because while he doesn't know the full extent of, you know, Lancelot's thought process, Lancelot doing this is very in character for him, and also I feel like Hauser and anybody in the room would probably do the same to protect someone they love. Heck, Tristan, previously, when Chaos Lancelot was brought out, after Lancelot was just getting turned into Chaos Lancelot, Tristan was basically acknowledging that he would have done the same thing in Lancelot's shoes. And while what Hauser is saying is incredibly harsh, it is something that does kind of make sense, at least from an outsider perspective. Sacrificed this one person and the world is basically saved. Makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, the contradiction is the fact that we don't really see Lancelot and Guinevere actually fall in love, because Lancelot and Guinevere previous to this have only met twice. Well, technically 3 times. And then we get this moment of Lancelot giving himself up for her. That is really the one downside of this entire plot point. The Guinevere-Lancelot relationship is basically non-existent. Guinevere basically fell in love with him through all the memories of the future, so that kind of helped move her along. And Lancelot only just started gaining feelings for her, because it happened. So it's more so a question of like the progress of the writing, and that is kind of a shame. Now, at the same time, what Hauser is saying is very harsh. So basically trying to imply that he would do the same thing, which obviously he wouldn't. Heck, he practically turned a traitor himself against Dreyfus and Hauser during the initial Leonis arc of Seven Deadly Sins, primarily because of Deanne, to protect a very brutally injured Deanne, because he saw how everything was going. He already had a crush on her anyway, but like all that stuff ended up helping him turn trainer. Same with Gila. So Hauser, in a sense, is kind of a hypocrite for saying this at one point, but at the same time, his point at this section does kind of make sense from his perspective and from a logical point of view. There's definitely a longer conversation to potentially have with like this section with Hauser, but I don't want this video to be over an hour long at this point because it'd take forever to come out. But anyway, after this, Gother says that in comparison to Cath, yeah, I will prefer Cath, saying that with Lancelot having the power of chaos now and is under that influence, Cath is basically a marshmallow puppy in comparison, and that he would much prefer having to deal with Cath again, and that was already a hard-fought battle in and of itself. And Gawain even says that at this point, there doesn't seem to be a human being in this world that could even take on Lancelot. Now, Gawain does specify human being, but just anybody of any of the different races in the Seven Deadly Sins probably won't have a chance at Lancelot unless they have some sort of divine power like the Demon King or Supreme Deity. That really seems like the only option. Another godlike figure being able to fight against them now. But I do kind of like the perspective of looking down at everybody from the top of the boar hat ceiling, as this little miasma effect is placed to kind of show that utter like despair and disbelief over the entire situation, because we are truly and utterly f***ed. And Gawain even confirms something that I kind of expected. If they didn't teleport away just a second late, like the time that they did it, they waited like a second more, they wouldn't have come back alive, prompting the end to ask if Lancelot attacked them, like we all kind of thought. But Gawain clarifies, Lancelot, what he did was not unleash an attack. All he did was release the magic power that was within his body the entire time. So all Lancelot had to do to nearly kill everybody was just let that raw power out. He basically nuked an entire part of Camelot. Granted, it was a wasteland effectively, but even still, just his sheer raw energy just eviscerated everything in his path and almost killed the entire cast without even really doing anything. That is the level of power that Lancelot has. And while he now has the actual power of chaos, that definitely makes it worse. It does imply that even when Lancelot unleashes his magic power, like what he did with Galahad, he was still doing it in a controlled manner to the point where it wouldn't destroy everything around him, which is crazy. It also shows a Lancelot that is not holding back anything, and that is terrifying. And I like how Gawain is basically being like the rational person here, breaking things down for everyone to properly understand. Now, we get Keon being Keon again, basically saying that he tells everybody to just think of the worst possible scenario. And I hate to say it, but Keon is right. I know you guys probably want me to have some sort of Keon slander that I have not said in well over a year, but at this point he is kind of right in terms of thinking of worst case scenarios. It's a decent way of thinking, but the way Keon goes about it is just utterly ridiculous a lot of times, and nearly caused him to fully turn traitor because of his utter devotion for Tristan and thinking that they can turn on him. And hilariously enough, he was right, like 200 chapters later. But despite all this, despite Gawain saying everything, and the entire Four Knights group confirming it, Balin's not convinced, saying that it's all probably over-exaggerated. He's just one holy knight to begin with, and can't imagine Lancelot just being somewhat of a threat in this regard. Now, I love Balin. He's fun, and his magic power is literal invincibility against one of either type of magic. But Lancelot would easily take him out. He would one-shot him even before this by holding back, because even he would be able to read his mind and figure out what his magical ability and invincibility is, and just probably faster than Gawain figure it out, due to just how skilled he is in combat. But against Chaos Lancelot, he'd die instantly. All he would have to do is just unleash his magic power raw, and just one touch, he could just erase it from existence. Gareth tells Balin that, well, Lancelot beat up all of the four perils by himself, so he ain't nothing to sneeze at. Balin says, well, that just makes me want to fight him solo one-on-one anyway. So, I love the confidence Balin, but Gawain just straight up tells him that despite how strong Balin is and how she admires his strength, Lancelot's a monster on an entirely different plane than anyone else can think of. So that is something crazy. Now, Donnie comes up with an idea that I think a lot of us have potentially had when it comes to Lancelot and Chaos Lancelot, that we have a lot of powerful characters. Even just in this room, we have 2 of the 7 deadly sins in the room. Just everybody here come together. Maybe if they ganged up on Chaos Lancelot, they'd be able to do something. But Galahad comes in and tells him that that is completely ridiculous, and if he has any idea who he's even talking about, saying that they have no real idea of when Lancelot really wants to fight seriously. Now, Galahad admires his father to no end, and this entire ordeal has most definitely traumatized him beyond belief. He also saw his future mother nearly mutilated, so this guy is definitely going through it in and of himself. Nevertheless, Galahad is probably a bigger glazer of Lancelot than even the fan base is, but that's a discussion for another time. Everybody's wondering who this new group of knights are, and apparently they just came in with Tristan, according to Gilthunder. But Gila asks why and how Galahad is so sure of Lancelot's strength, and he tells them all that it's very simple, and just goes to show how insanely strong Lancelot really is. He tells everybody that Lancelot never fights at full power whenever there's someone around that needs his protection, saying that Lancelot has never ever fought full force. He has just held back in almost every single fight because he doesn't want to kill anybody nearby that he holds dear or needs protection or is just not involved. Galahad says that what Lancelot has is the type of force that could hurt the people that he wants to protect just as easily as he can hurt the opponents that he's trying to fight, which just dead silence through the entire room. And this is probably the closest we have really gotten to learning 100% the full nature of Lancelot's just immense power. We know he has infinite magic thanks to the Lady of the Lake, and now he has Chaos. But even future Lancelot had to constantly hold back. That's just how powerful he is. And honestly, very in line with the legends of Lancelot just being probably the strongest character in all of Arthurian legend, with the only one being Galahad that could stand a chance at him. And right now, this version of Galahad is immensely weaker than a younger Lancelot before his prime, and now Lancelot with Chaos power is even stronger, so that's an entirely different thing. But this is a first-hand account from his future kid, who he has probably sparred with multiple times to drill in actual combat techniques to Galahad from a young age. So Galahad is probably the best person to tell people how Lancelot's powers are, and basically how exactly Lancelot has been holding back his entire life. That is crazy. But Gother ends up saying that regardless of all this now, there is no longer any chance of avoiding a clash with Lancelot. With Hauser saying that, yeah, now with what's going on, Lancelot's no longer an out of prophecy. He's just Chaos Lancelot, someone attempting to destroy the world, and they have to defeat him if they want to protect Britannia. Gila tries to hold him back to try and think things through a bit more, but, well, Hauser also kind of makes a point that they have to accept that they have to fight and take down Lancelot, otherwise they're the ones that are going to die. And he is right. Look, we can say that how he presents things is kind of, harsh, but this line in particular, he's right. If they don't take this fight seriously, they're all gonna die. Lancelot didn't even try to kill them. He just unleashed his power that he's kept sealed inside of him, and that almost killed them. That wasn't even an attack. That wasn't even real intent to kill. That is insane. So they need to take things even more seriously. Now, Pelio asks Deanne where King is. And Deanne just says, well, King had to go to Benwick to inform Bon and Elaine of everything that's happened right now. So, King is going to give Bon and Elaine the bad news that their son has effectively been taken over by the ultimate evil of the world, effectively, and is now threatening to kill everybody he knows and loves. And this prompts Tristan to ask where his father is right now, and Gila and Hauser shudder because Deanne realizes after a brief hiss of silence that nobody told Tristan what happened to his parents in the battle against Cath. And Gother just admits that the timing was not great. Heck, they literally just got back from Camelot, and they had to immediately talk about the imminent threat of Chaos Lancelot. So there wasn't exactly a good amount of time to kind of discuss the things that happened to Meliodas and Elizabeth in the previous arc. Now, after hearing this, Tristan is definitely concerned over his parents and is wondering what happened, as he then bolts right out of the boar hat to go find his parents. But it's then that Ysaye goes up to Gawain, asking, "By Prince Tristan's father, do you mean ... And Gawain says, "Yeah, King Meliodas," which surprises Ysaye. Now look, before this came out while I was on vacation, I kind of saw like fan translations of the leaks for this chapter, like right as I was getting these chapters while on vacation so I can read it. And the fan translation had it be like Ysaye had no idea who his grandfather was, who Tristan's father was. This one implies that he does, but is confirming something. This one feels like more intentionally that Ysaye kind of has an idea of who Meliodas is and just wants to confirm it. Meanwhile, the fan translation for the leak says that Ysaye might not even know who Meliodas is, which will kind of track with how they haven't seen giants and fairies from the previous chapter. It could imply that all the different races of the world are just gone, and maybe Meliodas might actually be dead in the future for all we know. Same with the theory that Tristan has been dead for a bit in the future. We don't know 100%. Again, we still don't know 100% what's going on with the future. I feel like we need to have a chapter or two dedicated to explaining the future of the Four Knights in the, well, natural timeline for what we can gather. And right now I feel like we're definitely going to have a conversation between Ysaye and Tristan to see what's going to happen with that. But we have no time to discuss Ysaye right now, because we cut over to Leonis Castle, with Tristan trying to make it to his parents' bedroom, while the servants are telling him to kind of wait and that they need to rest properly right now. But Tristan just keeps pushing forward, and sees Isolde in front of the bedchamber, guarding it. And once she sees Tristan, she starts to tear up, as Tristan runs past her and opens the door to see Meliodas at Elizabeth's bedside. And we get one full page of Meliodas just telling Tristan the honest truth, no jokes, no holding anything back, that Elizabeth won't open her eyes, and she most likely never will again. Saying that she tapped into her divine powers despite having a human body, all to protect the 7 deadly sins and the citizens of Leonis. And Tristan, with a shocked and just empty look, staring at his mother, Meliodas says for Tristan to forgive him, because he couldn't protect his mother. Meliodas, we don't even see his face. He can't even bring himself to stare his son in the eye. Says that right now it's all a void. I have no idea what I should do anymore. And after hearing this, Tristan, instead of talking to his father or berating him for what he says, or gets angry that he didn't try harder, something that you would expect a kid to say in a situation like this, even if it is irrational, keeps silent, and he walks out of the room. Now, this was a really good scene. Like, genuinely, I liked it. Just the insane amount of emotions, from the shock on Tristan's face to just a sheer look of despair after learning that his mother may never wake up ever again. And to tie that all together with his usual joyous, joking, and sometimes serious at times father, just being completely depressed, feeling a void in his heart, saying he doesn't feel anything and isn't even sure what to do anymore, must be incredibly disheartening to hear, because even if Tristan has had some choice words about his father, he's always loved and respected him, and to hear someone that he loves and respects, his own father, say this, must be devastating, alongside effectively losing his mother. Tristan has been having it rough this entire series, from getting his ass kicked so much in part 1 to him constantly him either having mental manipulation, thinking he killed Isolde for a second there, losing his best friend, and now losing his mother effectively, and his father is in a deep depression. This man cannot catch a break. His life is in utter shambles right now. Like, genuinely. He is going to be called Tristan the Sad, like in Arthurian legend. That is freaking crazy. But now we cut to the outside of the castle, with Tristan sitting on the edge of the roof, saying, "What should I do after losing my mom and one of my best friends?" Like I could say that to my father. Saying how his parents basically shared a destiny for over 3,000 years, and that he couldn't even imagine how much of a presence Elizabeth was in Meliodas' life. really showing the level of maturity that he has. He wanted to say something to his father over what happened with him, also losing now his best friend and his mother. But he knows the story of Meliodas and Elizabeth. He knows the heartbreak and the tragedy of their lives, from the constant near immortality and constant reincarnation and deaths that have happened with Elizabeth, to lead them up to a point of potential peace, only to now for Meliodas to lose the one person that effectively gave his life true meaning. Tristan understands it wholeheartedly. It's eating him up inside, and now he has no idea what to really do in this situation with everything that's happened to his family and to his best friend. That is so sad. Tristan, I feel so bad for the guy. But he then asks Isolde, who manages to walk out behind him, what he should do. But all Isolde can really say, and this is probably the best thing she could say in this moment, is that no matter what Tristan decides, she will stay by his side to the end and will continually support him no matter what. And this is definitely something that Tristan needed to hear, and he asks her if he can depend on her, as she then hugs him tight as the chapter ends with the two of them embracing each other. Chill and heartbreaking chapter, and I had a lot to say about it. Honestly, the whole situation that revolves around Chaos Lancelot, that entire discussion, is genuinely interesting, and we could probably talk about this in an entirely separate video potentially, to really think things through with how Hauser is saying things and how others view it, and how he's both right and wrong in his assumptions of things. But he is right that they have to take this matter seriously or they're all gonna die. To Galahad being the best person potentially to actually say what Lancelot's been doing this entire time, just holding back constantly because his power is so immense that he could hurt those that he wants to protect as badly as he hurts his enemies, is absolutely crazy. Gawain being basically the one to more or less take up a leadership role, seemingly, by telling everybody the situation and potentially like weighing their options as well. I do like that as a nice progression for her character. Also, I didn't mention this, Gawain is back to her normal state. She's no longer in the Merlin-esque middle stages of her transformations. She is back in her base form, so it's nice that we get to see like normal Gawain for a bit again. And lastly, everything with Tristan is just heartbreaking. His life has been coming down so badly, and I think it really just started with Jade's death. And he has gone through the ringer so much, dealing with so much trauma and heartbreak, that it is genuinely hard to see how he comes out on the other side of things, but also just how well, I guess, Meliodas and Elizabeth have raised him to, even though he is completely distraught, put up a brave face and understand the situations. And having Isolde there to console him at the end of the day is very important, especially with everything the two of them have been through just with the last few arcs alone. We are inching incredibly close to a real confrontation with Chaos Lancelot, and apparently that's what the next chapter, chapter 250, is going to be called, Chaos Lancelot. So we're most likely going to be seeing what Lancelot is going to be doing right now that he is fully chaosified and is on the path to destroy the world. Are we going to see what has fully changed of his personality outside of wanting destruction? Is he going to raise his own army? What's his plan for destroying the world? And what's he going to do first? I'm curious with that. And we also have the possibilities of like how exactly the four knights or the rest of the, or I should say the three knights, are going to deal with things. Even though the Holy Grail Knights are there, they are just so far out of their depth in comparison to the four knights, and even then they can't totally cancel to Chaos Lancelot. So we have a whole lot of things to happen. Meliodas is in an utter depressive state. That's actually a discussion I want to plan for a different video. But yeah, a lot of things are going on. We are in the worst case scenario, and Chaos Lancelot is definitely going to make his move in the next chapter. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Let me know that you like this stuff and you want to see more. Back to regular schedule next week with the next chapter going forward. So look forward to all of that. And once more, don't forget to check out my Patreon, link in the description and probably in the end screen of the video at this point, just to help support the channel over there. I got my big hour and 20 minutes each of the Witch video, where I go over like 16 full chapters for an entire arc, which is the Fujimine arc for each of the Witch, and we're going to be doing monthly each of the Witch content on that channel for chapter reviews, maybe a bit more, but for right now it's just the chapter reviews every single month. Go check that out, link it down below. And with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.